One of the things we often don't talk about is what is the mindset that is needed to be a successful freelancer. Sure, you may have some great skills and some great experience, but sometimes that's not enough. It's often the attitude that you have that will come across to the clients, whether they want to engage with you or not. So today's guest, Georgandis, is on the show to talk about what type of mindset really sets professional freelancers apart from people with just the skills, but not the right attitude. Let's listen in. Nick, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So what has been some of your experience on Upwork? You are a writer, obviously. I love writers. So I would love to know kind of what inspired you to get on Upwork and how it's been going for you.
Sure. Thanks. I was working as a full-time copy editor for a chemical news bureau in Houston, Texas. I discovered Upwork just kind of by chance while looking for some freelance work to kind of, help with the bills. And I did, maybe just a few projects here and there, but I started getting more interest to do more and was having to turn them down because I was working 40 hours a week. In 2012, my wife and I had twins, and they were micro preemies. They needed a lot of care. We had a full-time, childcare person, and she quit after a year. And I told my wife, I think I could probably stay at home, take care of them during the day, and freelance in the evening hours. Just at that time, just doing editing work because that's not as mentally tasking. So I started doing that. The first few months were terribly rough, but things started picking up on Upwork, which back then was still called Otis before they switched brands. But eventually, it started being like a real business. I was making pretty close to the salary I was making at my full time job, and as my kids got older, I could take on more kind of mentally tasking jobs. And my plan all along was to stop when they went to kindergarten, when they were 5 or 6 years old. But by then, I had a real small business that was making good money, way more money than I would have ever made if I'd stayed in the profession I was in. And I've been doing it now for since 2013, so I'm about to hit 11 years.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So obviously, Upwork is an important part of your new business mix. Do you do things off of Upwork as well? Meaning, do you have other clients that you found independently?
Yes. I also joined Fiverr, which is Upwork's big, probably rival, in 2019. And that's been very good to me, but also is a little bit more hit and miss. If you have a bad review on there, they bury you for months, which I found out the hard way in 2013, this year, actually. And I had kind of moved a little bit away from Upwork and came back and really found some quality clients. They've really improved over time. They had a rough go as anyone does in the internet commerce business. You run into a lot of weird stuff right away. But
are you seeing more demand for copywriting?
Yeah, it's funny is earlier this year when 𝗧𝗔𝗞𝗘𝗔𝗪 really came online, I lost some clients who thought, hey, why am I going to pay this guy for what I can tap into a computer? And then a few months later, they all started coming back because they found out, it's not quite what you think it is. It's not quite that original, because you type in, write 500 words for me about digital marketing, it might send the same article to 15 different people. And then what are they all going to do with it? And copywriting is a big time thing. I was a newspaper guy a long time ago. And when the internet came around, our bosses were so down saying this is going to be the end of journalism. We're all going to lose our careers. But we all found out it wasn't the end of us, because if you could write, the internet's incredible. It's just the end of the newspaper model. So I think they were only worried about themselves and not really about us.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate that because I'm seeing the same thing with many copywriters initially threatened by ChatGPT, and then all of a sudden the demand for their services skyrocketed, if nothing else for original writing, editing, and being able to sit there and even do some prompt engineering, because a lot of writers are moving to prompt engineering. So I'm glad you were seeing that as well, and I'm glad that things have been going well for you this year. Let's talk a little bit, though, about Upwork in particular, because I've noticed that there are a lot more freelancers creating up a consulting gig, if you will,
Hmm.
where they're saying, hey, charge X amount for 30 minutes or 1 hour of my time. And I think that's really interesting. We don't do it, but I would really like to know, do you have any experience with that? Any advice, ideas?
I do. On the other platform, I do actually have a gig like that. And it was mostly because so many people come to me that are freelancers, mostly from other countries, but sometimes, from the US, that don't know what they're doing and need help. But I'd never charge anybody for a consultancy if they want to do a project like a book or a white paper or something. To me, that's like almost like a first date. I wouldn't charge someone $30 to go on a date with, especially me. But I want to have that really authentic relationship begin with us just talking. If it's on Zoom or if it's on the phone, or even a few clients I meet in person because I live in a big city. But I want them to look at me as this is a guy that I can go to for advice about anything, not a guy who's saying, yeah, you got to pay me 50 or $75 to just sit there. The only time I do it is if it's a client who says, that they're going to pay me for my time, because that to me is usually means they're a big company, that for them it's all checks and balances. They got to, make use of all their time spent. But I really like to be that kind of voice to people. Of they don't have to just tell me about the project. They can tell me, what's hampering them from writing it themselves if I'm going to ghostwrite it, or they need advice about what they should do with it, or they've some people say, well, I've got this whole series of books, and I'll say, well, let's just do the first one, and see if that one actually sticks before we get to book 11. But so to me, it's really about starting a relationship where I don't want them to think of me as I got to pay this guy to tell me answers. And I want to, if I give them good answers and good information, they're going to want to just come to me and hire me to do the big job.
So basically, if to sum up, you're really thinking that not charging them, but encouraging them to contact you for free for that consultancy
Yeah.
is just that it's distinguishing you in the market. It's saying, I'm trying to be helpful. Don't worry about paying me. Let's not start our initial relationship with a check. Let's start it by me understanding your needs and you understanding what I can do to help you. Is
Right.
that generally the
And for
approach?
some people, this is a lifelong, whatever they're doing, especially I've written so many people's like their autobiography or memoirs or something, it's not that they are super rich and are just trying to, hire John Grisham to write it. They've got a budget, and I don't want to tap into that, start saying, well, you got to pay me just to talk to me. That feels really, inauthentic to me.
Sure. Well, you did mention that you were on other platforms, and certainly, you have a nicely fleshed out online profile. So, really, in thinking about other things outside of Upwork, do you think freelancers should have a website? I know that a lot of times freelancers are like, oh, it's a lot of work. I don't want to do it. I'll just put a profile up. That'll be my website because I'm just going to do work on Upwork anyway. So why do I even need to go to that extra effort, cost, etc.?
Right. In 2014, which was my second year, I built a WordPress site, really spent a lot of time with it, and who I am, praise from former clients, here's a list of all the skills I can do. And I even was blogging for a while, but you're right. It is a lot of work, and it's not work that it's hard to see the results of, because I'm thinking if they're going to my Upwork or my other profile already, there's so much stuff there. What if, and no one's finding me organically, or very few people are going to that website just blindly. So about a year and a half ago, and the problem was, if I'm always busy working, the amount of work I'm putting into that website and the time I'm doing it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. Are terrible,
Yeah.
and then if people do go there, they well this guy, here's his praise for his former projects, but they're all from 5 years ago. That's not going to do me good. So after a lot of consideration, I changed my WordPress site to just being a portfolio, because to me, I'm thinking, my profile on Upwork or whatever is going to sell them initially. Okay, they see who I've worked for, they see my rating, all that kind of stuff. They talk to me. I mean, I'm the biggest seller. their belief that I can fundamentally do what they're asking to is what's going to make or break the difference. But then if they want samples, I've got a million of them on there. I've got them broken down. I've got, samples of books I've written that people have let me use. I've got tons of articles and white papers and blogs and all kinds of stuff. So then, if I'm reeling them in with my personality and my assurance of what I can do, there's the tangible proof that I've done it before. I don't need a flashy website with, bells and whistles and, a VR version of me and all this other stuff. I just need, that's like sealing the deal.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I do think, if you look at the portfolio system inside of Upwork, it is very visual based, right? You do need to have a graphic in there. And I think for some people, it's kind of hard to show their work visually, especially if you're a writer. What are you going to show? A piece of paper, right?
Absolutely.
And so, but I do find that from time to time that in engaging with prospective clients, they do want to see samples of your work and they may not go into that portfolio piece, or they may want more detail. And I think being able to say, no, here is a list of my work, especially as a writer, where the words is the visual, right? Where the actual content is truly what people need to see. So they see both the tone, inflection, the writing style. And that way it adds more context, because I do think, and to be fair, it has been our experience that the only people that do come to your website, you're in the final selection process. This is part of the vetting process. Like, is he really that good, or does he just say he's that good? So I personally believe you should have a website, even a one pager. If it's nothing more than just, here's all the things that I have done, something to show that you have done work, that you are someone that they can trust, and that you basically have the skills they're looking for.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And at that point, if we're thinking of it like the traditional sales funnel, they don't need to know that I'm from Texas or I have daughters or, either I've told them that or it really doesn't matter. Maybe we'll talk about it on a Zoom call, when we are a little bit more personal, but I'm trying to show them what you're talking about. I've done it before. I've done something just like it, and look how good it is. And that is that's the slam dunk that I want to finish that job with.
So you've been doing this for quite a while, and definitely I appreciate the fact that you talk about the sales process. And I think a lot of freelancers, it's been my experience that many of the freelancing peers that we've talked to tend to be a little bit more introverted, don't necessarily feel comfortable with communications like what we're doing face-to-face on a video call, because they were like, I want to be a master of my skill set and not necessarily be a sales guy. And so I want to know from you, based on your experience, because you are outgoing, what is kind of the mindset that you think that a freelancer should have? I mean, if they're uncomfortable selling, is it really selling? What kind of mindset will help them?
Yeah. I mean, part of it is that you have to sell yourself at this point. There's the market is too full. There's very little differentiation, and to me, you've got to be able to communicate with people in this or on the phone or something, because it's too easy to be fake. If I'm working with a guy from Los Angeles, we're writing a book together, and he said I was the first person that was willing to get on the phone with him. He said the other people were like, oh, my voice hurts or this or that. I'm thinking, there's no way in the world I'm going to give money, blindly to someone that won't even it's like that catfish show on MTV. There's no way you should be doing that. But my biggest advice would be really hear everybody out before you just summarily say no to a job, because there's a point where I got really, really popular right after COVID. When suddenly, as an aside, when COVID happened, I didn't know what was going to happen to my freelancing business. I'm like, shoot, is everyone going to just say I'm not going to spend any money because I don't know what's going to happen? But it was the opposite. People were suddenly home with a lot of time, and they started saying, well, I'm going to do that project that I've had on the back burner for 10 years. But shoot, I lost my train of thought there.
No, but about the mindset about selling yourself.
Yeah. So especially when you're looking for work and you're not actually getting as much as you want, hear everybody out and really engage with them. Make them feel like their project is not just something that everyone in their life says, this is dumb, you shouldn't write that book. No one wants to, hear about your journey from A to B. Really hear them out, really give them a platform to talk on, and be honest with them. That's what I like to do with people. Is I used to be really nervous getting on calls like this when I was first freelancing, because I was always worried they were going to ask me questions I couldn't answer. But now I've got the experience where I just, I listen to what they say. I tell them what my experience is, what I'm capable of doing, and find a way that's going to work for them. So many people are concerned with getting it published, or can they afford it? The flexible aspect of freelancing doesn't just mean, there's the fake image of the guy like in the hammock on the beach writing a story, which I'm thinking, okay, well, that's never going to happen. But the flexibility of it really should be both ways, where you extend that out to the clients and say, yeah, I can do just a little bit of work for you, and we can go from there. Or, yeah, I can help you develop this, or I can give you some ideas. And much like the consulting thing, if I can give someone some ideas for what they should write about or what they should focus their project on, and it takes me 15 or 30 minutes and I can do that for free.
Yeah.
If I'm an expert in whatever aspect of Upwork you're doing, if you're an expert already, that kind of stuff is easy. When people always ask me, well, you're going to use 𝗧𝗔𝗞𝗘𝗔𝗪, I'm like, I love to write. Why would I want a machine to write for me? If I love the garden, I don't want to have a machine out there planting the flowers for me. I want to do it myself. So I think what people really should think about is, if you're an expert at something, you can give little samples of that out for free to inspire people to have that confidence in you that they want to work with you.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I think there's a misperception by many freelancers what selling on a call, let's say like this, would be, because the best salespeople that I know do a lot more listening than they do talking. Right.
Yeah.
The general structure that even we use is, here's who we are. Right. You'd like to know, you try to find some commonality. I'm a father. You're a father. You're in Texas. I'm in Texas. Mm-hmm. And then past that, say, I'm really interested and excited to learn more about what you need done. And then let them go, because you're right. In many cases, these are passion projects, or these are things that they've budgeted for, that they want to share. They want to talk to someone about it. And then the real kicker is just figure out what they want and how your skills align with it. And then say, I'd love to work with you. I mean, it's not the used carsman, hey, let me, sell this for you. It's really just about listening and figuring out if it's a fit. But the other thing that I always like is the fact that if they've actually taken the time to reach out and talk to you, knowing that so many other people will not be on a call, that gives you a huge advantage. So you should hope that people would want to call you, Yeah,
and I would say also, especially when you're starting out or when the economy's tough or whatever, it's such a struggle not to prioritize how much you're going to pay me part of it, but you gotta let that go and just talk to them, and eventually, if they're confident, they'll bring up the price, and then by then they're usually at the point where they're ready. Unless you're just doing something outlandish, they're pretty much ready to hire you. It's so tough. You really just gotta keep that even keel, because you're not the car dealer. You're not trying to. You don't have to move 15 cars this month, or you're out the door. You gotta really give them the idea that you're really there to engage with them over the time that's allotted, and not say. You don't just have the contract in your hand ready for them to sign it.
Yeah, on top of which, you want to make sure that it's a good fit too, because the other aspect of getting on the call is you can see if you can even deal with them, because there's some projects that sound perfect, but the person behind it is someone that you just don't mesh with. So I really appreciate you saying that, because I think more and more freelancers need to get comfortable and say, I am ready to get on a call with you. There's a Zoom link right inside the message. Click and let's talk. Because if you're not charging for consultancy, then I'm here to help you for free. Let's talk and see where I can maybe just save you some money by not charging you right now. So I think there are some things that you have shared in this interview today that have been absolutely fantastic. And I really, really appreciate it. But I also want to make sure that people can find you, because you are a writer. And again, as I said, I love writers. So where can people find you, and where can people engage with you?
I'm on Upwork, and I don't know what the links are, but you can search under Nick G. I think it's my handle on Upwork, so I got in pretty early. I'm on LinkedIn at Nick G Freelance, and my website, which is my portfolio, is 𝗦𝗪𝗠𝗔𝗪𝗏.wordpress.com. Got probably a couple hundred samples there of stuff I've written over the last 5 or 10 years. And, I'm always available to talk. I like to, you work from home. You like to break up the day. You'll talk to anybody, at some point. Somebody wants to take me to
Including me,
Starbucks.
apparently.
Yeah. Someone wants to take me to Starbucks around here. I'm like, I feel like I've won the lottery, It's usually them saying, well, I got to get back to work. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Well, I will absolutely include links to all of your aligned resources in our show notes. And Nick, thank you so much for taking time to be with us and sharing your insights with our audience.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the video. And if you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel here. More importantly, if you found it useful, please share it with your friends. And one more thing, if you're looking for some great tools to help you succeed on Upwork, go check out 𝗬𝗪𝗧𝗏.ai. We think you'll like it.